There is a curious cannon in Barcelona, made in the United States in the 19th century, which bears the name of one of the main leaders of the Cuban independence insurrection. This is a cannon manufactured by Cyrus Alger. It is a mountain howitzer from the American Civil War that was captured in Cuba from a filibuster expedition that brought it for the insurrectionary troops of General Calixto Garcia. If you want to know his extraordinary story, join me in this video. I am Pedro Enrique Pujals, and this is my historical channel El Tesoro del Presidente. In the exhibition Engineers, Soldiers, and Wise Men, in the building of the military government in Barcelona, we find this curious bronze piece. It is a 12-pound mountain howitzer, muzzleloader, with a name engraved of Calixto Garcia, with an S instead of X. Calixto Garcia was a notorious leader of the Cuban insurgents, who fought in the 3 wars that took place in Cuba against Spain. He was the general of the Mambay troops that collaborated with the Americans in the fighting around Santiago de Cuba in the summer of 1898. It also bears the name of López de Quiralta. He was a combatant in the War of 1868, called the 10 Years of War, in which he reached the rank of colonel in 1870, and was entrusted with the mission of organizing expeditions that brought weapons and men from the States. On the plan of the mouth is engraved, among other inscriptions, the year of manufacture, 1863, and the initials of the manufacturer, C.A. and Company. The ones that allowed me to identify Cyrus Alger and Company that manufactured these howitzers before and during the American Civil War. Alger was considered one of the best metallurgists of his time, with numerous patents in artillery. In 1809, he founded his company in South Boston, Massachusetts. During the War of 1812 against the English, he supplied the government with many cannonballs, and his factory became famous for the excellent artillery they manufactured. The first rifled cannon in America was made in his workshops in 1834. The famous Columbiad cannon, the largest iron cannon made in the United States, was cast under his supervision. Already in 1850 his factory was the largest foundry in the country. In 1837, Cyrus Alger was awarded the contract by the War Department to cast the American version of a mountain howitzer, dubbed the Model 1835, known as the 12-pounder, copied from an 1828 French model. Here we see this one in the Les Invalides Museum in Paris, and this other property of an American collector. The inscription on the breech says that it was cast in Douai in 1843. The name of the piece is Le Rap, and apparently it was captured from the Mexicans. Perhaps they obtained it from the French expeditionary troops of Napoleon III. This lightweight artillery piece was used by the U.S. Army from 1837 to 1870. It was used during the Mexican-American War, Indian Wars, and during the American Civil War, in which the 1835 model participated in every campaign and major engagement. From 1870 the Army began to replace these cannons, and the Cuban émigrés in the United States managed to buy some and send them to the insurrectionary troops inside the island. This is where Colonel López de Quiralta, the organizer of filibuster expeditions, enters the scene. On September 8, 1870, he set sail from Nassau, in the Bahamas, aboard the steamship Salvador, a former blockade runner of the American Civil War. This expedition had a tragic fate. When they disembarked in Trinidad, south of Cuba, they were lost and ended up in an unsuitable place. Almost all the cargo was captured by the Spanish army, and many expeditionarists died. This ship had on board, among other armaments, 4 pieces of wheeled artillery. Possibly this cannon was among them. I have found reference to these cannons in the General Catalogue of the Artillery Museum of Madrid, from 1908. It says that all the guns were captured in Cuba, and have different names engraved: Tita Calvar, Maximo Gomez, Limeno Sanchez, and Calixto Garcia, all these insurrectionary generals, and below these names, in all of them, López de Quiralta. I think this is due to Quiralta's intention to honor to these Mambay chiefs, and also to honor himself. Quiralta managed to survive until the end of 10 Years' War, and later worked with José Martí in the preparations to start a new war in 1895. They had planned a large expedition of 3 ships, loaded with weapons and men that were to leave for Cuba from the port of La Fernandina, in Florida. This expedition was discovered and confiscated by the American authorities, due to indiscretions and errors attributed to López de Quiralta. Contrary to popular belief, a self-serving version spread in Cuba, the insurgents did use modern artillery of U.S. origin, such as Hotchkiss pieces and Sims-Dudley dynamite pneumatic guns, which allowed them to attack fortified towns. They had American artillerymen, such as Frederick Funston, who reached the rank of Mambay colonel. In the 10 years of war, muzzle-loading artillery, such as these 12-pounder howitzers, was more common. Here we see some examples of these pieces in the Museum of the Fortress of La Cabana in Havana. Following the trail of this cannon in Spain, it entered the Museum of Madrid in 1899. I have found references to this howitzer in a ministerial order of 2009, which authorizes its temporary removal as a deposit of funds from the Military Museum of Montjuic Castle in Barcelona for safekeeping in the headquarters of the former Captaincy General. From Madrid it was transferred to the Montjuic Museum at some point, and when this last Montjuic Museum was dismantled by Mayor Ada Colau, the cannon in question went to the Palace of the Captains General of Barcelona. There I could see it a few years ago and I was able to photograph it. Currently, as I have already said, it is part of the exhibition of the military government of Barcelona. Some data about this cannon is its operational range, around 1,000 meters. It was smoothbore, and fired spherical grenades, as well as canisters of shrapnel, propelled by half-pound charges of black powder, caliber, for .62 inches. As you can see, the carriage in which it is now has nothing to do with the original. Being a mountain howitzer, the carriage could be dismantled for transport on the back of mules. Today, many of these 12-pounder mountain guns are collector's items in museums, on battlefields, in memorials, monuments, and are used in reenactments of the Civil War. It is one of the most sought-after pieces by private collectors, so it reaches a high price at auctions, probably due to its size, which allows it to be easily transported and exhibited in any room. Taking advantage of the fact that we are surrounded by so much historical artillery, I announce that my book Ultima Ratio Regum, The Historical Artillery in Santiago de Cuba, is on sale in Amazon, available in English too. Here ends today's video, belonging to the series on historical artilleries. I hope you liked it. If so, please leave me a like. This helps me to continue creating content. Do not stop subscribing to the channel, and activate the notification campaign so that you receive the notice and do not miss my next videos. See you later.